Hey everyone, and welcome back to another installment of Revolutions, the ongoing diary of my spins. Still in lockdown here in Melbourne, so lots of time to play records and I'm working obviously, but I'm home, so I can play lots of stuff, rediscover. Still really not buying records at the moment. Uh, but rediscovering things is great. It's always the joy of remembering what you've got in your shelves, and maybe even some well-trodden classics. I've got 20 records here for you, some books as well, and a couple of DVDs even because I want to talk about some movies. A viewer asked me, I think one or two viewers asked me, if you want to talk about movies, why not? So I might include a little movie segment at the end of this video. Also, on another note, I'm starting a new series focused on my thoughts on record collecting. There will be like small or short episodes which I will post once a week. I've made one already. So let me know what you think. Give me some feedback. The first one is just more like an introduction thing, but I want to go into like certain topics to do with record collecting. So you'll see more to come. So this week I was playing, and also obviously just interact with me on under the video, like just leave me some comments. That's what I'm doing it for. I'm not doing it for. I mean, I don't do it because I like to be on camera. I don't like. I'm not doing it because I like the sound of my own voice. I do it because people, you, the viewers, you enjoy me showing you a range of records. I think in the feedback that you give me, it's the diversity of records that I show you. Going from some rock records to some Brazilian records to some jazz to you know and back again. And I hope that you know I can inspire you to rediscover some records or discover some records. Um, First record I played this week or was the Harmonia Deluxe, the second album by Harmonia from 1975. This is a band. This is a krautrock band formed by members of two bigger bands, Cluster, Hans Joachim Rodelius and Dieter Möbius, and the guitar player from Noi, Michael Rother, Michael Rother for the in the English speaking world as is known. Deluxe is a fantastic, motoric, sounding. It's very much like Noi. It's got this kind of scintillating, driving sound that permeates through. It's kind of a mix between ambient music and the stylings of Noi. This very sort of driving beat. If you've ever heard the Noi records, I think it's a much better, at least a better album than Musik von Harmonia, which is the debut album. In my opinion, you may disagree. I think it's one of the real gems of krautrock. I think if you're looking at some must-have records in the krautrock style, it's very sort of ethereal and it's a beautiful record. Just before making this video, I was rediscovering this EP by Melbourne post-punk band, the Sacred Cowboys. Band featuring ex-members of the Models, which is also a kind of a cult classic Melbourne post-punk band. And the sound that you've got here is kind of like an amalgamation of I don't know, Echo and the Bunnymen meets Magazine with a little bit of maybe a little bit of early Simple Minds maybe thrown in, but I think Echo and the Bunnymen is kind of a good reference point. And because it's an Australian band, you also have a lot of the birthday party in there as well. The bass, notably, it's very birthday party like. The first single was called "Nothing Grows in Texas." It's the first song there. I highly recommend that you take a listen to this. It's a fantastic band, fantastic album, well, EP. And they also cover Bangkok, which is a really, really great tune by Alex Chilton of Big Star. I don't know if you've heard Bangkok. The original is amazing. I mean, I highly recommend you check it out. Um, an absolute classic for me personally is Heaven or Las Vegas by the Cocteau Twins. This album, it's got a very sentimental value for me as well, because my my late wife Sarah, who passed away 3 years ago, she loved the Cocteau Twins. I think she infused me with a love of the Cocteau Twins. We had one of their songs, Lorelei, at our wedding 20 years ago, and I think Sarah's love for this band was got me into. She was way cooler. She was way cooler than I am. This isn't a masterpiece from 1990. The duo of Liz Fraser and Robin Guthrie from Scotland. You have just like masterpiece after masterpiece on this record. Cherry Colored Funk, Ice Blink Luck, Ice Blink Luck. It's a bit of a tongue twister, that one. 50/50 Clown, which is a favorite of mine. I Wear Your Ring, which is just a perfect song. If you don't have Heaven or Las Vegas, you're missing out. In the same sort of year and era, you have Loveless by My Bloody Valentine, which I've been playing a lot recently. I was showing this album in the video with Mark and John. This is an absolute classic of indie rock, shoegaze. This album came out in 1991, almost bankrupted Creation Records, because Kevin Shields was basically just demanding more and more studio time, and he was really basically really anal about the whole process. He wanted it to be done. He used about 20 engineers. But this record, luckily, it was made. And when you look at the picture there, you can almost, I mean, you can tell it's a guitar, but it takes you a while to actually look at this and go, oh, it's a guitar. And that's a bit like the music. When you listen to it, you go, oh, what are we? It takes you a while to actually work out what you're listening to. Yeah. Okay. You've got the beautiful ethereal voice of Belinda Butcher, the second guitar player in the band, which comes through. And I think the Cocteau Twins and My Bloody Valentines are not the whole, they're not very far apart sonically. I mean, this is noise, this is noisy guitar. I mean, if you like thick layers of electric guitar, layered to almost infinity, you'll be very satisfied. Now, in relation to this, I also recently purchased the 33 and a third book on Loveless, which I've just started reading, so I can't tell you very much about it. And at the same time, because I thought there's no point ordering one book, I also got myself a copy of Songs in the Key of Life and the 33 and the third on Kid A, which are three of my all-time favorite albums. So I thought some reading. And in the pandemic, I think it's really great to be able to support the local bookshops, and that's why I'm doing it. I'm just buying some books. But yeah, Loveless is an absolute classic of indie rock, simply. And if you've never heard it, I urge you to. You're probably not going to like it instantly. That's my guess, because it's an album that's not very easy to get into, but or maybe it will be for you. I don't know. It's I was also talking about this record here a couple of revolutions ago. Julia Holter. I've been very, very immersed in this album recently, Loud City Song from 2013. Now, Julia Holter, she's an American singer. I wouldn't call her a singer-songwriter, but she's, would you call Kate Bush a singer-songwriter? Probably not. but she's in the wheelhouse of Kate Bush, but like a modern take on Kate Bush. Um, some really really infectious art pop. I also very highly recommend To Have You in My Wilderness, which is the album she put out a couple of years ago. I think they're just such great records. On this, um, which song is it? Maxim's one, or maybe is it Horns Surrounding Me? It's either the second or the third song on side A, which always just I think to myself, this is a masterpiece. It's just catchy as all get out, and it's cerebral. It's clever music. Speaking of cerebral music, I spun this morning. Rachel's music for Egon Schiele. Rachel is a modern classical slash chamber music indie. I'd say they're an indie group really from Louisville in Kentucky. Same as Slint and Bonnie Prince Billy actually. And this is their second album, and a true masterpiece of modern kind of chamber music. I hear a lot of Niels Frahm in there, for example, but this is way before Niels Frahm. This is an album from 1996. Egon Schiele is obviously the Austrian artist from the secession movements, the Art Nouveau secession movement of Vienna. Um, I am an art fan after all as well. I do. There's a lot about art that resonates with me, and Egon Schiele was a very intensely quirky and sort of depressed kind of character, and you can see the pictures he was made. He was a friend and I guess student of Klimt, who's better known obviously. This is a beautiful record. It's a trio made of Rachel Grimes, Christian Fredrickson on viola, Wendy Doyle on cello, and obviously Rachel Grimes is on piano. I highly recommend you take a listen to this. It's a fantastically beautiful chamber music album. Um, the next album I won't be able to tell you very much about. It's a Japanese. It's a great Japanese jazz album by a band called Itsuru. It's a modern Japanese jazz album from 2018. Features a whole traditional jazz band with double bass, piano, drums, sax, but also you've got koto and shakuhachi as well, flute, bamboo flute. This record, yeah, as I said, came out a couple of years ago. It's got this beautiful sort of ambient, traditional vibe. If you like things with, there's a couple of these classic bamboo flute records, and also I'm thinking of Spiritual Nature, which is a great Japanese album from the 70s. If you like those kinds of mixed with jazz, this is fantastic. It's just take a listen to it. My description probably doesn't do very much justice to this. I'm sorry, but I really dig it. Every week I've been spotlighting an album from 1971, the 50 years ago, the greatest year in music, or some people don't agree, but I'm just saying. And this week I played There's a Riot Going On by Sly and the Family Stone. Proof that it doesn't matter how much cocaine you take, you can still make an album. That's true. This is an album just totally. This is the sound of a dude on cocaine, overdubbing to infinity, to the point where the tapes are just like completely worn out, and nonetheless presenting this to the record company and creating a brand new sort of subgenre of funk music, which was then to be copied and replicated. I mean, with that, there's a Riot Going On. You could argue that there wouldn't be any, like something like Bitches Brew wouldn't have happened, like to a point. This is a freaking amazing record. From It's a Family Affair to what's the song? What are the songs on this? Love and Hate, yeah. There's a Riot Going On. Africa Talks to You. My God, what a record! Spaced Cowboy. If you've never heard There's a Riot Going On, I mean, honestly, it's a true essential record from 1971. And so, whilst I was revisiting There's a Riot Going On, I also revisited Music of My Mind by the great Stevie Wonder. I mean, total artistry. This guy is just. This is not an album that I play often by Stevie. I mean, for me, Stevie is, Innovisions is probably, you know, the very top of the tree. Innovisions and Songs in the Key of Life, which I was just talking about a second ago. I think this album is kind of, it's kind of the forgotten little brother. It's in the classic period, 1972, and what Stevie did there, he got together with Tonto, that is Malcolm Cecil and Robert Margouleff, a duo of experimental wizards. If you've never heard the Tonto record, I urge you to listen to it. I'll probably pull it out now that I've talked about it. Because these two guys were the kings of synths, basically, and he was searching for sounds, for different sounds. But this record was made entirely by Stevie Wonder by himself. Every instrument is played by him. It even says at the back, this album is virtually the work of one man. All the songs are composed, arranged, and performed by Stevie Wonder. It's just, like, yeah. This has got Superwoman on it, which is great. Happier Than the Morning Sun. Keep on Running. Beautiful album. And to finish the soul bracket, I've also revisited this beautiful soul folk album by Minnie Riperton, Adventures in Paradise, which is my favorite Minnie Riperton album, I think. People always Come to My Garden as their favorite, but I don't know, I think I enjoy this more. I'm sure you're all familiar with the story of the cover where the lion actually jumped on Minnie Riperton as they were taking the photo. She got attacked by the lion. If you want to see some really amazing footage, Google Minnie Riperton lion attack, and you'll see this. It's I think she's telling this to, I think it's Arsenio Hall or Sammy Davis Jr. that she's talking to. I can't remember. But this woman was talent personified. A beautiful soaring voice. The arrangements are second to none. There's this beautifully recorded acoustic guitars. The title track is amazing, but also feeling that your feeling's right, and when it comes down to it, beautiful songs, amazing. Minnie Riperton of the Rotary Connection. I'll continue with a couple of jazz records. Here is a sort of rare groove type record. It's Doug. I'm speaking French now. Doug Lucas with Niara. I mean, you probably not seen this record very often. Doug Lucas was an American trumpet or trombone player, trumpet player. That's right. Who's living in Brussels in Belgium, and the rest of the band are all Belgians basically. You can see from the name, Yvan de Souter. You can see. So if you like the stylings of, like, I think it's like Euro jazz fusion, atmospheric jazz fusion. I guess you could compare this. I always talk about Placebo and Cortex and those kinds of bands, but it's not very far sonically. It's more of a jazz fusion. Cortex is more like Placebo is more like a jazz funk album. So you've got more of a sort of early Weather Report kind of vibe on this. I really like this, but it's an expensive. It was an expensive record when I bought it. Um, Here is a cheap record that can be had by everybody. Contrary to the previous record, here is Sunny Fortune with Awakening on Horizon Records. This is a superb jazz album from 1975, I think 75, yes. And it features an all-star cast of. So Sonny Fortune is on sax. You've got Charles Sullivan on trumpet, Kenny Barron on piano, Billy Hart on drums, and then some other people appear on this. John Hicks on piano. It's a bit like it's almost a bit like a Strata East Records, this one, but a cheaper version of it. It's got this kind of acoustic jazz mid-70s when everyone in 1975 was doing this kind of Electric Miles type of sound. These guys just went, oh no, screw it, we'll do a type of fusion, but we'll keep it very, very acoustic based, and that comes through very, very nicely. I very highly recommend this record. All right, in the past couple of weeks, I've been watching and listening to a lot of Steven Wilson, the main man from the band Porcupine Tree, talk about music. So he's got this podcast called The Album Years, which is fantastic. I urge you to check it out. Him and this other guy, they talk for about 4 or 5 minutes about a given album and just give their opinion on, or maybe just relate to it. And it's a bit like the VC, but in a sort of like podcast version. And he's extremely witty, Steven Wilson. I mean, I'm not a fan of Porcupine Tree or his solo music. It's not my thing personally. But he can talk about music, and I can listen to him talk about any album, and he's interesting. And one of the episodes is about McCartney 2. And it got me to play the record, obviously, because I listened to the podcast, and it was just quite interesting. Basically, Steven Wilson thinks that McCartney 2 is just crap and unimportant. There's this great exchange where the other guy says to him, temporary secretary, second song, is like Square Pusher 15 years earlier. To which Steven Wilson replies, no, temporary secretary is like your dad trying to be Kraftwerk. Oh my God. I think I laughed straight for 10 minutes when I heard this. And it made me want to replay McCartney 2. McCartney 2 is a 1980 record where Paul McCartney sort of discovered synths a little bit, or at least explored them. And it's a bit hit and miss. There's some really great songs. I mean, Temporary Secretary and Waterfalls and Dark Room. They're great songs. And I hadn't played this for a little while, but playing the podcast just reminded me of this album. And it, look, I've got nothing against it, but it's not Ram or Band. Look, for me, I'm not a fan of Band on the Run. I'm not a fan of. I think it's very highly rated by people, but it's not my thing. I think Ram is just up there, and also Wildlife. Wildlife is underrated for me. But this is a great little album. But if you like this, geez, you're missing out. Like, there's some great songs. Get this. This is the McCartney's archive collection reissue that came out a few years back. What's interesting with McCartney 2 is not the songs on McCartney 2, is the B-sides of Waterfalls and Temporary Secretary, which are amazing songs. You've got a Secret Friend, and what's the other song called? Check My Machine. Those two songs appear on there on the second. There's two discs on this, and they appear on the second disc. The first disc is still in my CD player. And I tell you what, I do a test to people who come here to play records with me. I put Secret Friend or Check My Machine on, and I try to get them to guess who it is. And no one can guess it's McCartney. It's genius electronic music. And yes, it is Kraftwerk. It is proto-electronic stuff. I mean, I think every great artist has tried to sort of, try to be, you look at Neil Young with Trance, Brian Wilson with the Beach Boys' Love You, where he sort of went, so they all tried at one point, but this is a good experiment, I think, but the B-sides are far better than the A-sides, I think. I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard it, but I'm just saying. And in the Album Years podcast that I was talking about, Stephen Wilson, they were talking about Hard Food by Judy Seal as well. I mean, and they made a good point in the podcast that Judy Seal was probably the female equivalent to a Nick Drake, in the sense that her music was largely ignored at the time and then rediscovered by generations of younger people. This is her second album. Judy Seal was a very tragic character. She married very young. She got into smack addiction. She became a prostitute. She had multiple car accidents. And she ended up dying of a cocaine overdose in 1979. And she was only like 35 years old or something. But she made wonderful records. And on this, the last song, it's called The Donor. It's 7 or 8 minutes of just genius songwriting. I very, very highly recommend this. This is from 1973. And it came out on Asylum Records. This is a reissue of... I have an original pressing of the debut Judy Seal, but not this one. Let's open a little Caribbean bracket now. I've been revisiting this great jazz fusion album from the French island of Guadeloupe in the Caribbean. And this is the Fabiano Orchestra, a cast of thousands, including people like guitar player Alain Belaïche. You've got Hannibal Marvin Peterson on trumpet. You've got Clifford Jordan on flute. Obviously, Fabiano himself is a percussionist. This is a stellar, jazz fusion with a real island vibe record, which was reissued by Superfly Records in 2013. I think it came out originally around the late 70s. I think I'm guessing. I don't know. Possibly. You can look it up. Very highly recommend this Fabiano Orchestra. And as I was in my Caribbean section in my record collection, I pulled out The Heart of the Congos by the Congos, one of these maybe top 5 roots reggae record ever made, featuring the dual amazing vocals of Cedric Myton and Congo Ashanti Roy. His real name is Roy Johnson, as you can see, with Sly Dunbar and all sorts of other great musicians on this. Recorded at the Black Ark Studio by Lee Scratch Perry, the master himself. If you don't have heard Congos, listen to the opening track, Fisherman. Oh, it's so hypnotic. Like this music is a hypnotic, rhythmic, just soaring, spiritual spiritual reggae music. Really, like, takes you in the just takes you to the outer limits. Um, I also played at the same time Handsworth Revolution by Still Pulse. Still Pulse were a band based in Birmingham in England, and this is arguably one of the best reggae records to come out of England. Um, Again, roots reggae, same style. Difference is that this is political reggae, as opposed to the Congos being this kind of spiritual journey. This is very, very political. You use songs like Ku Klux Klan, or Handsworth Revolution, the opening track, which is amazing. Soldiers, you can see it's all driven by political motive. Um, yeah, it's just one of the best UK reggae records ever, and you can get this quite easily. I think I very, very highly recommend this from 1978. I think from Birmingham. It's interesting because Handsworth is um, is a neighborhood of Birmingham, and I lived in Birmingham for a year, and that's where I used to live in Handsworth. That's what it reminds me of. Um, okay, I'm going to continue. I've got a couple of CDs and a couple of DVDs, so hopefully I don't go for too long. Um, I've been playing FX Twin Selected Ambient Works #2 quite a bit. Um, I used to have the triple vinyl of this, and I don't think it was worth the trouble. It's too much effort. And for an ambient album, it's got to be so clean, and I think it's too long. Selected Ambient Works #2. I think it it could do with a lot of trimming, but nonetheless, I mean, there's some great, beautiful, atmospheric tracks. It's great for late night listening. Aphex Twin, obviously, Richard D. James. If you've never heard Aphex Twin, it's a good place to start, or maybe Selected Ambient Works #1, um, or even the Richard D. James album, which is fantastic. But anyway, this is great. Um, Also playing a lot of this, which is music for 18 musicians. I'm going to take it out of the box. Um, this is not the well-known ECM version of that. This is the version done by the Grand Valley State University New Music Ensemble, and arguably one of the better versions of this album, of this fine album. And I don't think this exists on vinyl at all. I think it's just a CD, and it is a super audio CD, which my CD player is very capable of handling. But nonetheless, don't be deterred. I think CDs are wonderful, personally. Yes, I've said it, and I will say it again. In my new series about records, record matters, I'm going to talk about CDs and how much I love them. This wasn't cheap as a CD though. It's a beautiful record. I was revisiting Thing. Thing is an album from Boston jazz musician Arnold Chitham. Put his name here, if you can see. This was once upon a time sent to me by my friend Mike from Boston, and that's a local Boston band from the 70s. 72. It's very much like an Electric Miles record. A bit Strata East-esque. It's a beautiful record. If you find this, if you see this in the wild, don't hesitate. It's just a superb, superb jazz record. Just really top notch. And the last CD I've got here to show you is something that doesn't exist on vinyl either, like the Steve Reich thing. This is a Tunisian album by Dafer Youssef. It's called Divine Shadows. It was kind of a blind buy in one of my local CD record stores. And this guy, so you've got a mix of traditional North African music with all the traditional instruments, and down tempo, like sort of a very like dark down tempo vibe. It's a superb record. Check it out. Dafer Youssef, Divine Shadows. Um, and I'm going to talk about a couple of movies, and I'm going to stop talking because it's way too long. And Penge and Derek are going to tell me off. Again, I just love they made a video where they talked about my the way I talk too much. Apparently, Derek falls asleep after 2 minutes. Great that I can cure your insomnia, Derek. Um, so at the moment, I'm home and I'm on this journey of watching and rewatching some classic movies, especially from the 60s and 70s. And I just love movies. And here is a movie that I watched a couple of nights ago. I rewatched. Obviously, these are DVDs that are on my shelf on my rack, and that I've just decided to pick up. I hadn't watched Clued for a good 10 years, I think. Um, It's a fantastic movie with obviously Jane Fonda and Donald Sutherland, made by Alan Pakula, 1971. And my God, I mean, this is a great sort of neo noir. Um, what a well made movie! It's an astounding piece of cinema. The shots are beautiful, and oh my God, Jane Fonda is for me, when I see Jane Fonda in this, I'm just like, oh my God, this is woman. Yeah, so a great movie. And yeah, it just tells a story of it's trying to solve a disappearance of a guy, um, and she plays a call girl, and then they obviously enter a relation, but it's more about, it's not so much about resolving the crime, more about the dynamic of the relationship, I think. And the other movie that I watched this week was Le Cercle Rouge by Jean-Pierre Melville, one of the greatest French directors ever. If you want to get into 70s French cinema, this is a very good place to start. This is the police thriller, kind of noir as well in a way, featuring some heavyweights of French cinema, Alain Delon, Yves Montand, and Bourvil, a great French actor. Uh, it was his last movie, actually. And it talks about a heist, a jewelry heist, by two men or three men who come across each other by chance. And it's a beautiful movie. This has become officially a movie channel. Now I'm just a couple of movies. Um, you don't know. I mean, I watch a lot of French cinema as well, so good to talk about it a bit. Okay, I hope you enjoy all this nonsense, and talk to me and leave me some comments and um, insult me if you must.